This episode is unlike any of the other episodes because it is a really approachable way to make money on the internet of vibe coding and teaching you how people are doing it by selling AI services on Upwork. Now, there's people who are making 5, 10, 15, $20,000 a month, solo devs or with a small team, literally one prompting or a few prompting apps that they're finding on Upwork. I thought this was really interesting. Not because I want to go and do Upwork stuff, but because I think it's a really good way to scouring Upwork is a really, really interesting way to see what are business problems and what are SaaS businesses that you can create. So I had my friend Billy come on the pod, and this is a guy who's started and sold multiple Replit apps, and just walk you through how to think about making money on the internet with vibe coding and how this whole Upwork ecosystem works. Enjoy the episode, and I'll see you at the end of it.
The Startup Ideas Podcast. Sipping time, baby.
Billy Howell on the pod. Billy's been going viral recently because he's been vibe coding his way using Replit and selling those businesses, not just one time, but twice. I wanted to have him on the show to explain, well, what are we going to learn today?
I've got it laid out for you right here, Greg. We're going to find out how to make profit with vibe coding.
Okay, I got a lot of question marks, but by the end of this episode, what are some tangible skills that people are going to learn if they make it all the way through?
Sure. The number one thing is how to sell an app that you've built. That's what I get asked all the time, is how to sell and how to market. And the secret is not to market, it's just to sell it. So we're going to walk you through that.
Okay, so you've got me intrigued. I'm that's where I'm at. I'm in the intrigue phase. Let's get right into it. So where do we start?
Okay. So we need to find someone to buy the app before we build it. That's where most people get this wrong, is they build something and then try to sell it or try to get users. But I've found it's a lot easier to just find something someone wants to buy and then build it. And so if you don't know anyone that wants to buy an app, you should go to Upwork. That's where I sold my first Replit app, is Upwork. And so all I did was search for a technology that I knew I could replace with an app. So I use Airtable a lot with past projects and clients from my marketing agency. And I was looking at these jobs to do Airtable consulting. And I'm sitting at my desk looking at this one job description, and I'm like, I think I could do this better and cheaper than in Airtable, because Airtable, you have to pay $20 a seat, right? And so I made a prototype in Replit and then sent a Loom to the guy, and he's like, I like your prototype in Replit better. And that's how it went. So we're going to try to look for something here real quick that we could mock up to someone.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. So by the way, I must say, I've never thought of doing this before building anything. Like, I didn't even think this was an option. But it makes so much sense, right? This is validating. You want to build something that people have validated before.
Right. And you can go and you can search, custom app development on Upwork or wherever. But I think it's an easier sell when you're replacing something or doing something better than like existing software could do.
Cool. So what are we looking at?
Okay, so we're looking at Upwork listings here of people who've posted a job that has Airtable in the keywords. So we're going to look for something that we can just make an MVP on. Daily Google ad calls. No code expert needed for MVP development. This is one I see a lot on Upwork. And it's basically going to be a bunch of integrations. MVP that integrates Calendly, Zapier, Airtable, SMS functionalities. Not sure if I like that one. What do you think?
I mean, I'm curious your thought process. So what about that one didn't you like?
Well, for the purposes of this podcast, this is going to be a lot of digging around in developer docs to figure out how we get these integrations in a Replit app. Replit might not one shot it, but we could try it.
I mean, just put another way, you're trying to prioritize apps that are going to be easy to push and deploy, right? You don't want like complex apps.
Yeah, usually we're looking for CRUD apps, right? Something where it's just putting data in a database, pulling it, visualizing it. You could do all of this with vibe coding for sure. It's just going to take more tinkering.
Okay, cool. So let's look at it, maybe another one.
So this is case management for a nonprofit. So yeah, I mean, look at this. This is perfect.
Can you read it out loud? We have a lot of like audio
Yeah.
listeners who are not on YouTube.
So it's called Airtable-based creation specialist needed. The description is we are looking to have an Airtable base created for a nonprofit. The system will function as a case management and assistance tracking system. The database will keep track of clients, their case notes, any assistance given, their household members, and appointments. There should be an interface design that will show an overview of the business, number of active clients, amount of utilities paid, etc. The interface should also allow workers to view client data and input data.
So they're willing to pay $125 fixed for this project. When I look at that, I'm kind of like, is it worth it? What's a good number? How do you think about what the pricing of some of these are as an input for if I should build this or not?
Yeah. So this is definitely low. You can look at like how much money they've spent and kind of see. So maybe these people are looking more for like overseas help. You can always submit a proposal and, price over what they've put and hope that they bite. On Upwork, you pay for like credits to apply. Like I'll show you. Down here, like connects, and you want to boost it so that you're the top one. So they see yours. It just bumps it up on the hiring side. So it's first in their inbox. I don't know. These are probably like $2-3 worth of credits. But yeah, so for pricing, this is too low. For something like this, I mean, the first one I did for $750. I think you want to try to get like closer to that. Probably that was underpriced a little bit too. But then like you can also get recurring revenue from clients who want you to add on features in the future, charge them to pay for hosting. So I charge clients to pay for hosting. So it all kind of depends on, are you trying to get your foot in the door? What are you trying to make?
Right. Yeah, I guess the other piece of this is this person might be willing to pay $125, but someone else might be willing to pay $12,000. Who knows, right? So I think maybe people need to do their due diligence around like, okay, this might not be worth it for 125, but let me see on Upwork if there's other requests for a similar type of thing. Quick break in the pod to tell you a little bit about Startup Empire. So Startup Empire is my private membership where it's a bunch of people like me, like you, who want to build out their startup ideas. Now they're looking for content to help accelerate that. They're looking for potential co-founders. They're looking for tutorials from people like me to come in and tell them, how do you do email marketing? How do you build an audience? How do you go viral on Twitter? All these different things. That's exactly what Startup Empire is. And it's for people who want to start a startup but are looking for ideas, or it's for people who have a startup but just they're not seeing the traction that they need. So you can check out the link to startupempire.co in the description.
Yeah, and so you can just do fixed price and do higher. Automations is also a good keyword to look for because you can turn most automations into an app with a front end. This one is talking about growing a tutoring business. They need a custom workflow for parent inquiries. Yeah, this could be good because they're pretty much trying to cobble together Google Forms, Airtable, Typeform, Calendly, a bunch of stuff. So you could make this into an app for sure. And they want to pay $2,500.
We'll take it. We'll take that $2,500. Is this not too complicated, or do you think we can do it?
We can definitely do at least, the first part, like the data entry on the call.
Okay. All right, let's do it. $2,500. Let's do it.
Yeah. And so at this point, if it's a simple enough app and it's $2,500, right? You could go ahead and build the prototype, and then in the proposal, send it as a Loom link of you like demoing it for them, which I've done, and it worked for the first one I ever did. Otherwise, I would just talk to them. I would pull open like my Airtable, my Replit, and be like, I'm experienced with Airtable. We could build it out in here, or we could do it in Replit. And so replace Airtable with, whatever SaaS you're honing in on, if it's Airtable or HubSpot or Google Sheets or whatever. So let's just try to prototype this real quick. I'm going to take this whole description.
Okay.
And we're going to cheat a little.
How are we going to cheat a little?
I like to feed it into ChatGPT and just tell it like, can you format these requirements as a PRD for an AI coding assistant? Be agnostic when it comes to tech stack, but make sure to use Shad CN. Okay, so a PRD is a product requirements document. Does that sound right?
That is right.
Yeah. It's basically a form that tells an engineer like, here's all the features you're going to need. Here's like the data types and everything. Lays it out. So we're going to feed this into Replit to see what we can get. And then what was the other thing I said? Oh, be agnostic about stack. I'm pretty much saying like, don't be opinionated. Don't say we need to use, Vite or, this kind of web framework. Just let Replit kind of do its thing, or whatever you use,
And you mentioned Replit a bunch of times. Like, why are you using? We've had Amjad on the CEO of Replit on the pod before.
Yeah.
Why are you using Replit versus the other platforms?
Yeah. So I haven't tried Lovable, but I've used Bolt. I would say those are two comparable ones. I like Replit because I think you can get from idea to MVP with the least amount of friction. You don't have to worry about package management, installing stuff, does all of that. And then you can deploy really easily and test. Of course, like I still use Cursor and Windsurf to edit. If I get stuck in a loop fixing something, or if it's something really complex, I'll pull the code down into Windsurf or Cursor and prompt there.
Cool. That's helpful. All right. So what are we looking at right here?
So this is the PRD that just failed to copy. This is, I guess the new ChatGPT does like a split view for docs like this. Inquiry form, which sends details to our Gmail inbox. Yeah, so it's laying out all the features like we said, just kind of translating it maybe so that an engineer or an AI engineer can understand it better. So let's go into Replit. We're going to paste that in, and I'm just going to say, build me this app. Use ShadCN where you can for UI. That's just the library I like of pre-built React components. You don't have to say that. And I think Replit might use it by default anyways. The other little hack is if you want to upgrade the UI, like say you've got all the app logic done, I go into VO and just describe what the page does. And then I pull that code. So like an app screen for managing parent-student inquiries. You would obviously kind of lay it out more detailed than that, but you can just pull the front-end code from VO, and it'll make you a mock-up really quick. This is really good, especially if a client has sent you, like if they sent you like a drawing, like a wireframe, you can just pop it into VO, get that screen exactly, then in this step, like you could just, I'm not going to use this, but you could also paste this in and tell Replit, I have the front end code for like this screen, so don't worry about it. And it works pretty well.
Okay. So let's start building and see what happens.
Let's start building. So this is Replit v2. It's going to go back and forth a little bit with you before it starts. I think it's going to ask me some questions on features. And it uses Cloud 3.7. What do you think of Cloud 3.7? Have you used it?
Yeah, I mean, I use it. Frankly, I use it more like less for coding and more for writing, basically. But I mean, it's a step in the right direction. We also used it to build a game, where that's pretty cool. Like one prompting a game. So I guess I have used it. It's like, I don't know. I'm just numb to everything now. I'm like, oh yeah, I even forgot. Oh yeah, one prompted a game.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, like deployed game, like fully deployed, like
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
If you would have told me that, I went to CS school. If you would have told me that, how many years ago now? 15 years ago, that you'd be able to one prompt PRD design, front end code, back end deployed in like under a few minutes, I would have told you you're crazy.
I think I would have said the same thing, but because I wouldn't have understood any of those words because I studied public policy.
So you're not even a developer by trade?
No. Just kind of a self-taught script kiddie,
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so it says,
Yep.
What is happening on the screen?
All right, so the Replit agents read the PRD and kind of thought about it. Build the initial prototype. I don't know what would happen if you unchecked this. But it asks, do you want any of these additional features? We definitely want a Postgres database. That's going to be the where all the user data is stored. This is kind of a wish list. And I would say in the past, with most AI, this kind of feature where you have a wish list distracts the AI. But I think Replit in Cloud 3.7 is so good now. It really helps kind of set up your app to bolt these things on later. So I'm going to check the ones that we want. Let's leave off DocuSign. Maybe that was in the PRD though. Let's just see what happens. And then I'm not going to deal with payment processor right now because that could get messy. So we're going to hit approve plan and start. And this is why, tools like Replit and, the other ones like Bolt and Lovable are great because like, you know that after you do that prompt, it's always going to make you something that runs. So you always have a starting point. So like you just get past that initial like writer's block, which is a crazy way to think about code. And, all the CS guys are probably cringing hearing me describe it like that. But what can you say? Like it's vibe coding, man.
That's exactly what you could say, and watch them cringe as you say it.
Yeah. I get a lot of people replying to my tweets that are just saying like this app's gonna break, like
Right.
This is AI slop. This guy, or he's just making this up. And
is there any truth to that?
No.
So these, this product, this app, for example, like you feel comfortable that this can go and see. I mean, we haven't finished it yet, but that it could see the light of day, that someone can use and it can be valuable in their business.
Definitely, yeah. It definitely takes. If you have no idea how code is working, you probably shouldn't be putting out a production app, right? Like it does take some TLC to make sure to look out for things that would break once you put it in production, right? Like you can anticipate how users are going to break the app, right? But so yeah, you just kind of have to have the foresight for stuff like that. But otherwise, yeah, these are pretty solid apps. They're just so simple. They're CRUD apps,
Right. Yeah. It's when you start adding more complex features that you could get in a little bit of trouble, right? I saw like the DocuSign integration,
Yep.
um, payments that gets a bit more complicated. What else can
Yep.
get more complicated? Like, what should people look out for?
Yeah. Payments, definitely. DocuSign, anything to do with a calendar, AI in general gets kind of mixed up with date formatting and time zones. So
Okay.
that's something to look out for sure. Um, but then on the other hand, like I've skimmed the HubSpot docs and kind of copied and pasted in what I thought we would need into Replit, and it set up OAuth with Replit like flawlessly. Like I was dumbstruck. Um, so it is pretty capable at integrating other services, um, especially things that are just like kind of basic API like Git calls. If you're doing anything with like posts where you're changing data and other apps or servers, that could get really dicey. You want to make sure you're like locked down there. What I do now, that this is like a real agency, is I kind of have a dev that specializes in this kind of stuff go through and do like the last 15% and kick the tires, right? Um, so that's, and you can hire people straight off of Replit. They have bounties and stuff to do that kind of thing, just like hourly or for a fee. Um, so that's definitely a good
While
idea.
that's loading, can you? I've never done a bounty on Replit. I've heard about it. Can you just
Yeah.
show us where we'd find that and what that looks like?
It's just right here in your dash. Um, let's see. I actually haven't posted one yet.
Okay, so this is crazy. So for like $500, someone could get accustomed to an automated system. $1,500, you're getting a web application. But more interesting to me, and I think a lot of people listening, the get help button.
Right.
Like the fact that you can take it to 90%, 80% vibe coding. Sometimes something's not working and it's really frustrating. And you're sitting there talking to your girlfriend or whatever, your wife, your husband, and you're like, I'm so close. I'm so close yet so far. The get help button. So what happens if you click get help?
You
Okay.
can give the bounty a name, when you want it done by, describe the problem, and then use. You have to buy credits, I think.
Yeah. Like it seems like they call it cycles, which is like a coin or whatever.
Yeah, does Replit have its own crypto?
Right? Like they're a meme coin.
Um, yeah, so this is something I definitely need to be more disciplined about. It's just like $50 to troubleshoot something is such a good use of money versus me banging my head against the wall, burning $10 in AI credits and 6 hours of my night,
Totally. And especially
could be
if
super
you're
useful.
like, this is your business now, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if you're going in, you're going onto Upwork and you're trying to, make this a business. But by the way, like before we go back to the Replit screen, like how much how much is the most you can money you can make on Upwork? Like the top people of Upwork, like the Michael Jordan, the LeBron
Oh,
James of
dude,
Upwork. What are we talking about?
6 figures easy. I know one person that does over 6 figures. But he has an agency team, right, to support him doing
Right.
SEO. But you can
But
go on his profile.
are we
Yep.
talking? Oh, you can go on his profile. It doesn't say how much you make, right?
It says how much dollars of jobs you've completed.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I'm curious if when you say six figures, is it like $100,000? Is it $900,000?
Like if you go look, as if I switch to client,
$200,000 earned, $600,000 earned, and then it's like $12 an hour making $600,000. That's crazy.
right? But I'm not picking on this guy, but a lot of these are kind of like it's $12 to get in the door, and then maybe they
Right.
upsell you
Of course.
or give it to their team, right? I would say like solo dolo. I think you could easily clear 5, 10K a month, just without any outside help. Definitely building apps, but even just like if you consult on the right kind of projects surrounding like a specific SaaS.
Cool. All right, should we go back to see
Yeah.
our Replit?
Let's see how we're doing here. Let's see what we've done. Building the initial prototype. So real quick in Replit, this is the agent which kind of acts autonomously. And right now he's going through and scaffolding out the whole app. We can see it here in the files on the left. This is the client. This is what the user sees. He's building out components. Isn't that weird that I say he?
I was going to call you out on that. I didn't want to get you canceled, but is there a particular reason why you called Replit he?
No, I don't know. Is that? Yeah, I don't know what I should say. Replit's
It's
building
okay.
out.
Yeah, we can move on from that. The comment section is gonna have a field day with that one.
Yeah. Anyways, you can see all the files here. The one thing is you got to make sure they initialize the database. I've noticed lately sometimes the Replit doesn't initialize the database right away, but he's still going. So is he building a screen we can see? Yeah. Okay. So we can see this dashboard. So like a new thing in Replit v2 that they've added is it scaffolds like a UI that doesn't do anything like line by line when you start building, just to kind of wow you. And like it blows my mind every time. Like it usually looks sick. Let's see if I can pop this out. No, not letting me. Okay, and it looks like it's doing like a mobile app kind
Yeah,
of design.
which is interesting. I'm curious why it's doing that,
So maybe it was in the PRD.
or maybe it's just taking some liberty.
I think
And
maybe it
it's-
is.
I mean, I'm not against it. It's just genuinely curiosity.
Yeah, I've never had it do that. Interesting. That was probably my fault. I think usually I do specify web app, and lately I've just been not doing that because usually it knows. Either way, I mean, we can interact with it in the web, and you can see I've got so many. So we can see where I started like 4 months ago. I made a captain's log app that you just talk into and uses AI to like summarize your day. And since then I made like 40 more.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And we'll talk at the end. Once this is live, I want to talk about the process for selling.
Right. It doesn't have to be Upwork either. So my best projects are always referrals. So people come in and just be like, hey, can you help me do XYZ with this client or fix this internal tooling? So I think what you can do if you're like an entrepreneur trying to do this is like build like one or two apps, like probably more than that, like get good at it. Like I made like 40. And then just call business owners and be like, what's the most annoying thing you do? Or like, what's the most expensive SaaS you use? And then make them an app, right? And be like, and try to sell it to them.
Right. And, you decided to, we're talking about basically doing consulting. This is essentially consulting. You're doing consulting. You're just using AI to do consulting and building, but you're doing consulting, vibe consulting, vibe coding. And, but you've decided not to go and build a SaaS and sell it to people, right?
Nightmare, money pit.
So I want you to talk about, I want you to talk about that because people are probably there's gonna be a lot of people listening to this and be like, this is small boy stuff, this is a few $100s here, a few $1,000s there. The real opportunity is building multi-million-dollar a year SaaS businesses. What do you say to those people?
It's a nightmare and it's a money pit. You're going to spend a ton of money on marketing. I just don't. I get that it's an asymmetric bet, but like you got to have the juice to do that, right?
Yeah, you have to have the reality is you have to know how to juice. right? Like understanding distribution is a completely different skill set than, for example, building. So if you're one of those people that you think you can build audiences, you can build communities, and you're willing to invest in that in yourself, but also, you know, the time that it's going to take, right? Building an audience is going to take time, right? You're seeing this now.
Yeah. And the way my brain works too, maybe yours is like this with doing kind of multiple different types of projects is I think if you're, betting it all on one like app or use case, you get so much tunnel vision and you lose out on the feeling of finishing other apps, learning other libraries, APIs. Like you're missing out on a lot of learning, serendipity, just surface area of luck. So like the app that I just sold most recently, I sold to a consultant for a big company, to the big company. But she's like, "This is amazing. Let's turn around and sell this to company B and C because they have the same exact problem. They're in the same industry, and I consult with them." So that's awesome. You can do that if you find a problem. I think this is a more direct approach to finding like a burning hot problem that you can then resell to other people.
Yeah, and that's what excites me. I gotta be real with you, Billy. Like, what excites me about this whole approach around going through Upwork, finding problems, vibe coding your way through it, is it gives me ideas around building something that's validated that I can go ahead and sell that to other people who have the same exact problem.
Right.
So that's what excites it for me because I understand how to build distribution and how to sell. Frankly, sometimes it's not even about distribution. It's like how to take a product and figure out how to go to market. So yeah, that's what excites me about this whole approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a different lane, B2B versus B2C, I find it's better to work with business owners. I think they're more pleasant than, a bunch of people who are going to be saying like your app broke and you need to do this and blah, blah, blah. There's one source of truth if you're building apps for the business owner, and it's the business owner, right?
Well, it's a different, so you can still build a SaaS app and target business owners. You know what I mean? So you could still
I'm
do
thinking
that.
like mobile viral app. You're right.
Yeah.
Totally
You can
viable.
still do that. And you can build a SaaS app and literally only have 10 clients, right? But maybe it's 10 clients who pay you $1,000 a month.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's a whole other approach, right? So I think that when people think about building software, they think about maybe it's the popular example right now is like Cal AI, and I've had those guys on the podcast. They're doing $30 million a year. So they vibe coded this, and basically, great concept. Pancakes. You take a picture of it. How many calories, right? And then they
wait. Can I stop you?
Yeah.
Great concept. Pancakes.
People like pancakes. People don't like calories.
Yeah. Oh, this is sick.
Right? So, really smart. And they've got like a few of these apps where they're, again, these aren't trained developers. These are guys who are like in they're teenagers and early 20s who kind of vibe coded their way into this $30 million a year in revenue.
Whew.
Yeah.
Good
30.
night.
Yeah. With a few of their apps. Now, this to me
interesting.
is really cool.
Yeah.
But I think that this, because it's such a distribution challenge, is way harder than maybe building a SaaS app that targets like the easy here. Okay. Think of it as like a framework, right? The easiest thing you can do is get paid for a service. That's easy mode. Then like the medium thing you can do is build a software for B2B.
Yep.
And then the hard mode is like building software like this for B2C.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how I picture it.
I think you're right. I think it just depends on how you define like hard, right?
How I define it is high, likelihood of success.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
That's how and likelihood of success with risk. with risk, right? Like it's way more risky to go build a consumer social app.
That's why I like this approach that I'm doing, because I can de-risk by getting a price up front.
Right. Yeah, but you de-risk, but you don't get you there's this business is worth a lot of money, you know what I mean? So pros and cons with each, and for everyone, for the listener, just think about what excites you. Does building the Cal AI excite you? Does building like a SaaS app focused on thousands of customers excite you, or 10 customers, or does doing Upwork MVPs, banging it out and doing between $100,000 and $1 million a year of revenue, does that excite you with a small team? So everyone needs to figure that out for themselves.
I also just like unbundling existing SaaS. I mean, I think that's going to be such a huge market soon. I think you're going to be able to put in like, hrefs.com and then have an AI build you an Ahrefs clone using like an API, and it's going to be, so much cheaper. I think that's an interesting way to find ideas, is just looking at a list of SaaS or like existing APIs and building apps for them.
Yeah, I mean, so go to Ahrefs for a second, then we'll go back to Replit. So this is a business that does hundreds of millions of dollars a year, I think, in revenue. And it's been around forever, right?
Yeah.
Forever.
Oh, yeah.
For years and years. Are you saying basically there's going to be an opportunity to essentially duplicate this? It sounds like what you're saying is there's two opportunities. One is you can duplicate this and make it cheaper or free. And the second thing is, when you say unbundle, I think what you mean is target it for a specific niche. Is that correct? So Ahrefs for doctors. Just,
No, actually. I'm not taking a shot at Ahrefs either, which is struggling to show me anything. But Ahrefs it's an SEO kind of tool, and all their proprietary data is great, but there's also public APIs that you can just pay to get SEO data from. And so what I mean is, like, I think in the not so far future, you'll be able to paste a SaaS into, like, I don't know, you could do it with ChatGPT operator maybe, and have it look at the SaaS and reverse engineer it and use a public API.
Yeah.
To build it for you, right?
Got it. Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Should we head back to our baby?
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to preview this full screen.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, look how good this. Oh, dude. And it's mobile optimized. That's why it was showing that.
Oh,
man. This is incredible. Like, truly.
Yeah. So we've built this app. Okay, we're seeing, I mean, this looks like it works. Like, but let's just double check. What do you think an app like this is worth? A couple of $1,000?
Yeah, definitely. And to kind of add on to what we were talking about earlier, like, one of the advantages of doing this is that you can charge for, like, this is your monster that you've made. So then you can charge for ongoing support and feature requests and be kind of like a dev agency for your clients, right? It's not like a novel concept, but like, I don't know.
It worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
Here we go. So we got a recent inquiry here. Scheduling.
Wow.
Whoa. Okay, so it looks like it doesn't have Calendly. Like, it looks like this is a placeholder. So this is a tutor. This is going to be a user. This is so funny. This is so similar to one of my real life clients, and they need this. But the thing that is kind of stopping us from building this is data privacy laws for students. We have to figure out how we can be like Uber compliant. Otherwise, everything is like Airtable and Google Sheets.
Love it. Well, this is awesome.
Yeah. And then what I would do is, like I said, if you got time to kill, like if time isn't your constraining factor, make it an MVP. I kind of like, I think you could just make like it doesn't even have to do anything. Just make a mock up like landing page or dashboard. You could even just do it in VO. That would be even quicker, as we saw here. Ugh, dude, look how good this looks. So this one
good.
was done in like thought for 6 seconds. This is probably like a minute. So what I would do is find the Upwork job, make a mock-up in VO, record a 1-minute loom that says, I'm Billy. I make apps. I know you wanted it in Airtable, but I made it custom. Flatter them by putting their like company name if you have it in the top left. And then send the loom. Boom, rinse, repeat, next one. It doesn't have to be Upwork. I mean, you could do the phone book, right? Like,
Totally. And if you wanted to put this into Replit, you talked about that earlier.
yeah. So go into the code. It's got a breakdown of the components here. So I would literally go into my components here. And what do we have? Dashboard, detail, inquiry list, forms, layout. Yeah, I would put them in here. Dashboard, details, and then copy it. It's just like a regular coding IDE. And then I would tell Replit, hey, I made this component. Can you replace the existing component with this one? Or can you replace this page with this? Or you could paste in the entire page like at the start, like when you're doing that initial prompt with Replit. And that's how you can pretty it up. So that's the page.
And I recommend people do this. Like Chat-CN, it looks clean, but I think adding that extra polish, like it really does make a difference.
Yeah, we can go side by side here. They're both solid.
They are solid, but I what I do like about the V0 one is like the bright colors. I find that like the other one feels sterile. Actually, for that use case, you kind of want a sterile design, maybe. Tutor sync, like you don't want it to be like super like colorful.
Well, and also, Greg, the kind of clients I work with do not care for the most part. They want it to look clean and they want it to work most of all.
Right. Okay, fair enough, Billy. That's fair.
But you can make it super pretty in VO. Like if I'm doing like a data viz app, definitely go VO for charts. And yeah, then I would send that proposal and then sell it. What you do is, and I had someone ask like, do people ask for an agreement on who owns the IP, this and that? And no, not really. And maybe that's like short-sighted of me, but I kind of sign like a standard boilerplate. And only if I'm like, I'm going to use this IP in the future, like would I add that in? You don't need to get into negotiating like over IP, in my opinion, with little projects like this. And then, yeah, you can deploy it to a custom domain name, right, in Replit, or you could, push this to GitHub here. Push this to GitHub and download it all locally, and then just push it wherever you want to deploy it. You can mix and match, keep the database here. They have data buckets on Replit too, if you want to store photos, object storage, which is sick. I would say the things that like would make this a lot easier is like just a really simple like preset way to add like Stripe or Google OAuth to any project. You can do it with prompting though.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think that's coming, right? That's got to be coming.
Yeah. And one of the cool things about Replit too is that when you add in something that needs like an API key, you can choose to store that secret on your account and then use it again. So you can, it'll know what your Stripe secret is.
Love it. All right, Billy, this has been a lot of fun. I can't thank you enough for taking us through this. We're going to include in the show notes, we're going to include your social links, worth the follow, criminally under followed. I think you've got like 1,900 X followers. When I started following you last week, I think you had 800. So you're climbing up, but not fast enough.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
No, thank you, Greg. And go out there and build something. Just vibe code, make a game, make something cool, and then move on. I would move on to the next one. I would just make a ton of apps. That's my advice.
And is doing it on Upwork, I mean, it's like you're getting paid to do it, right?
You're getting paid to learn, right?
Getting paid to learn. I love it. All right, Billy. Thanks so much. And I'll see you around.
All right, peace.
Peace.